Welcome back to this special episode of Holy Land Uncovered. I'm Emily Francis, and I'm very happy now to be joined by Kathleen Nichols, the director of the Magdalena Institute and the Magdala Experience for Guests. Yes. Hello, and thank you for welcoming us to your home.
Oh, we're so happy to have you. Everyone's welcome here to Magdala, and especially someone like you, another woman, because this is a place which is so focused on or dedicated to women and their dignity and all the wonderful things that they can do and have done in the world and throughout history. So.
And why is your job such a thrill to be here, you know, representing female energy, the importance of Mary Magdalene in history? Why is this so important, especially in these times that we're living in?
Well, you know, I think just to kind of put this in a big context, it's interesting to me as an American to see how many people from around the world just love to come to this land. Everyone wants to come, and most people come to the Kinneret. They come to the Sea of Galilee, like we call it. And a lot of people say, okay, well, where is it that Jesus walked? Where is it where he taught? What did he say? Who did he speak with? And one of the principal people who was with him in his ministry, and this is why it's so exciting for me, was Mary Magdalene. And so to be here, actually these stones that we're standing on right now are from the first century. This is from the port. This is a port road that we're standing on. So we're on archaeology. And so who walked here? Well, she walked here. Her friends walked here. Her family walked here. Jesus and his apostles walked here. In fact, in this chapel, well, actually, it's a space which is shaped like a synagogue, and there's this painting where we have the hemorrhaging woman. And in the Gospels that we read as Christians, you know, they say that perhaps, well, it actually says, they got out of the boat, and that's when she came up and she touched him. And so we have an image here which represents that scene, but what it shows, the center of it, is a woman of great faith. And she was humble enough to say, you know what, I have looked everywhere, I have tried everything, but with great faith, I'm going to say, I need some help here. And she was cured, and she became an example for so many people, including perhaps Mary Magdalene, who was from here. But again, the exciting thing for people to come here to Magdala is to say, okay, if Mary grew up here, and we know she grew up here, or this is where she was born, her hometown, it's because she has that in her name. And so we were talking, you know.
Yeah, it's not a father's name, it's not a husband's name. It's
not at all.
Which is not common for women throughout history. Throughout
history, and also in the first century. And so if you think about it, you have Mary of Magdala, or Mary Magdalene. So many people think, and I happen to agree, that most likely she was from a family of means. And so, you know, some archaeologists really say that her house is even in the best part of first century Magdala. And so she was from a family of means, but she was a woman of means who was probably perhaps running the family business, managing the economy, really making a name for herself. Beautiful, a woman. I mean, that's what they always said throughout history, right? But not necessarily with this bad reputation of being a prostitute or a terrible person. But most people come here and say, okay, well, let me see. There's a mosaic chapel upstairs which shows Mary Magdalene in an encounter with Jesus and these 7 demons coming out of her, because that's what it says in the gospel. She was cured of 7 demons. And so you're like, what on earth is this?
What is that exactly?
Yeah, I mean
but she had a bad day, or 7 moods in one day made him demon, you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
Women have a lot of emotions in a day.
Well, you know, I would actually say that people have a lot of emotions.
People.
Yes. It's just women, because they're so passionate many times and they're so sensitive and so naturally people-centered. I mean, you've got men that are like that, women that are like that. But she had a lot of, we could call them modernly, monkeys on her back, maybe addictions, maybe ways of being that were really damaging her and damaging people around her. If you've got money, you've got power. If you're beautiful, you can be very vain, and you can look for, you know, yourself. You're not looking at others, you're not always helping others, right? You might be somebody people are looking to, but what is it that the Lord did when she met him? Okay, maybe her vanity, her pride, her greed, her laziness, her lust. I mean, who doesn't have that? Come on. All of us.
People just don't want to admit it.
Exactly, exactly.
Right.
But there was something in her, being a leader, being a person who was a point of reference, that, you know, was changed when she met the Lord. But the most important thing is she was free to actually be who she really was. And her influence is something that didn't just remain in the first century. If you ask anyone around the world, oh, they'll tell you stories. Oh, I think of Magdalene. Oh, I'm a Magdalene. It's incorporated into vocabulary of cultures and languages. People have this word that has a connotation. her influence has gone way past her time frame, way past this little tiny
place. Way past
place.
the other apostles.
Okay, and that's why, yeah, you've probably heard, she's called the apostle to the apostles.
Right, well, and that's the other thing, you know, what does it say about her that she was the one that was there, she witnessed the crucifixion, she witnessed the resurrection. Obviously, they had some kind of relationship, whatever it may be, that would make sense that people were maybe jealous of, maybe the men were jealous, and then everything also got taken out of context.
Oh, it's easy to take something like that out of context, even today. You know, if you see a married man and a married woman that are close friends, it's like, oh, there's got to be something going on. And that's probably the biggest thing we even hear in Magdala. Oh, we heard that she's, you know, the spouse of the Lord. And it's like, well, not in that sense. Why? Why? If probably in her single life, she didn't have to find her identity in a sense, in her husband or in her father or whatever. Why in that way? But she did find her identity and her power and her influence all over these centuries because of the changing encounter that she had with a person who helped bring out her true dignity, and freed her,
and what you know, the Creator wanted her to be, because she also went on to be a great teacher in her own right, and almost like
that's why.
You know, do you believe that to be true? That she was a teacher in her own right, and most likely she's from a wealthy family. She knew Torah. She was able to read in a time people were illiterate.
I honestly do think that, because, in fact, if you look, there's a cute little book that they have published from Magdala, which shows Mary Magdalene as a little girl going to the synagogue, the first century synagogue we have here on site, learning, because there's really, it might not be the most common, but if you're from a well-to-do family, and if you have, you know, a name and a sort of a point of reference in and of yourself, why wouldn't she be? And there's a lot of history and tradition that goes back to that. But the reason she's called the apostle to the apostles, and that's a really good point, it's not just Peter and James and John and the other, no, she was with a large group of women, but she was always a point of reference. And it's probably because, like you said, she was the first one to go and see the Lord when he first rose from the dead, which is what we believe, right? But the rest of the men ran away. They were hiding away. And she led a little tiny group of women to say, come on, guys, or women, come on, ladies, let's go and see him and find him, the person who changed me, made me free, and made me understand the beauty of who I am.
Well, especially now, even when you're getting outside of like specifically religious circles, there's a big spiritual movement talking about Magdala energy, the divine feminine, and the merging of the feminine, and you know, and you take it in the Torah, the Israel, the bride and the groom, even spiritually. So it's,
of course.
What are your thoughts on that in the times that we're living in? We're seeing a lot of chaos, but we're also seeing a rise of the divine feminine, whatever you want to call it. It's not just women, but it's the energy of receiving and sharing and intuition and all of that good stuff.
Well, I think you've put it beautifully. There's an intuition there that the whole human race has, that there is something that I would call an encapsulated wonder within the woman. And you could call that, some people call it the divine feminine. I would call it the feminine genius, which is actually a word I love. It was actually coined by one of my heroes is Pope John Paul II, okay? So he was one of the Holy Fathers. And he said, well, he was quoting some philosophers from, you know, ages past, including some more modern philosophers. One of them is Gertrude von Lefort. And she is a fantastic philosopher, unique for her time period, because she also, you know, being a woman, did she have a full professorship? Was she read, John Paul II read her. And the intuition she had was this. She said, women have a genius either to elevate humanity or to just bring them down. And I think all of us in our own lives, friends we know, women have a power which is very quiet, very subtle, but extremely potent, you know? And so when a woman has her eyes fixed upward on something that goes beyond self, beyond the material, toward the divine, toward the eternal, men's, not just males, okay, mankind's, their eyes are turned toward her because there's something attractive about women. And I think that was true with Mary Magdalene. Their eyes are turned toward the woman, and if what she's looking at, they're drawn toward.
Wow, thank you so much, Kathleen, for this inspirational Mary Magdalene female energy conversation. Much appreciated.
Oh, it's a pleasure to have you. So.
And we'll be back.
Wonderful. Always welcome.
Thank you.